In this module, we'll turn GDPR from abstract principles into concrete design choices. You'll see how consent, data minimization, retention, and selective disclosure translate into specific controls for EUDI Wallet onboarding. So privacy is engineered in, while KYC and regulatory obligations still hold. Up to now, you've moved from the big picture to the nuts and bolts. You saw why eIDAS 2.0 and the EUDI Wallet matter, and who the key players are. You explored the onboarding journey and captured requirements for a wallet-based KYC solution. You also identified the main regulatory themes. In this module, we zoom in on GDPR and privacy by design, and translate those obligations into concrete controls inside the KYC architecture. For wallet-based onboarding, GDPR isn't a checklist at the end. It shapes every design decision from the start. What data you ask for, why you need it, where it lives, who can see it, how long you keep it, and how you prove all of that must be encoded into your architecture. APIs, storage, logs, and user flows all become privacy controls. The goal is a traceable system that balances KYC evidence with individual rights. GDPR only becomes real for engineers when each principle is tied to a concrete control. Data minimization means your APIs request only the attributes strictly needed to approve or reject onboarding. Purpose limitation is enforced by tagging every data call with a purpose and checking it against allowed workflows. Storage limitation turns into explicit retention rules and automated deletion jobs. And accountability becomes your logging, evidence, and reporting layer, proving everything was lawful and policy-driven. Data minimization starts from a simple question. What decision are we making, and which attributes are strictly necessary to reach it? For a KYC or eligibility check, that might be age, name, address, and a verified status, not a full copy of someone's ID document. Keep mandatory attributes clearly separated from nice to have marketing or personalization data, and revisit these choices regularly as regulations, products, and risk models change. An attribute request policy works like a contract between the relying party and the wallet. For every onboarding scenario, product, and jurisdiction, you define a template. Which attributes, for what purpose, under which lawful basis. Each claim must feed a clear decision rule, legal requirement, or risk control. You version these policies so past decisions are explainable, and you require governance approval before any new attribute is added. When a wallet asks to share attributes, the person needs a clear story, not legal fog. Explain exactly what data you'll see, the specific purpose, and whether you rely on consent or a different lawful basis. Those are separate things. Replace vague lines like "for verification" with concrete examples, such as "to confirm you're over 18 for this account." Also be explicit about who receives the data, how long it's kept, and when it's deleted. When a user accepts or declines, you're not just storing a yes or no. You're capturing a structured event: who the user was, which session, which policy version, what claims were requested, the purposes, and the exact text they saw. That event is linked to the onboarding case as evidence, but without copying unnecessary personal data. It's then written into protected append-only storage, often hashed, so consent history can't be silently changed later. Purpose limitation draws a hard line around onboarding data. You collect it for identity verification and regulatory checks, not for every future idea the business has. Each data element and each downstream use needs a declared purpose. Tag KYC data, enforce role-based access, and block default feeds into marketing or analytics. If someone wants a new use, they must justify it, document a lawful basis, and pass governance review. Retention is about proving compliance without hoarding data forever. Start by grouping information into clear categories, then decide the legal or business driver and a concrete end date for each. Separate what you need for daily operations from what you must keep purely as evidence. When a period expires, trigger a defined action. Delete, anonymize, or move to a locked archive. Finally, assign an owner so someone is accountable for enforcing those rules. Treat onboarding evidence as moving through a pipeline, and design controls for every state, not just storage. From the moment data is requested, decide what's strictly necessary, and prefer derived attributes over raw wallet presentations. As it's verified, used in decisions, stored or archived, enforce encryption, tight access control, and detailed logging. Then automate retention and deletion, so information naturally expires, reducing both privacy risk and operational effort. Selective disclosure means the verifier gets exactly what they need and nothing more. Instead of handing over a full document, the wallet releases only specific attributes, like over 18 or verified address. When a decision only needs proof, you send a yes or no answer, not the raw value. This minimizes stored personal data, limits breach impact, and keeps requests aligned with what wallets and credentials can actually prove. Think of selective disclosure as matching the minimum proof to each decision. For age checks, you don't need a birth date, just a verified over 18 yes or no. For jurisdiction, you don't need a full address, only that the person is in an eligible region. You reserve full identity attributes for situations where KYC policy explicitly demands named identification, and you document those cases to show the AML or KYC justification. A privacy control map is how you make GDPR real for your KYC architecture. Each principle, like minimization, consent, purpose limitation, retention, and deletion, is anchored to specific components: the verifier, consent service, policy engine, audit store, and customer profile. You then assign clear owners across product, engineering, compliance, operations, and security, and define evidence, such as consent logs or deletion records. This map becomes the backbone for your broader compliance to control matrix later in the course. GDPR and privacy by design are the scaffolding of a trustworthy EUDI Wallet onboarding journey. Minimize what you collect, clearly explain why you need it, and retain only what's necessary. These choices reduce risk and build user trust. In the next module, we'll connect AML and KYC evidence duties to concrete auditable controls.